गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुसाक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. The indivisible principle, the eternal principle is the self. And this self that we are essentially cannot be known through any means of knowledge, nor through inference, because this self is not an object of contemplation of the mind. The mind can think about it, but it can never come to know it. Just like mind can think about the sleep, but sleep happens only when the mind dissolves. So also, just take that example without stretching it. The self also can be thought of as self, this idea called self, the word called self is in the mind. But what it is indicating is other than the mind. Then how will we come to know the self, sir? The self is self-conscious. The self is self-knowing. The self is self-illuminating. What does this mean? It means that your mind can come to know something. First type of knowledge is wherein the senses interact with the stimuli and collect information. Second type of knowledge is where the mind interacts with the subtle stimuli born within the mind, called the dream. This self cannot be the theme of the mind. It is independent, transcendental to the mind, even though supporting the mind. It can never become its theme. And therefore the Upanishads say, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. That saha with manasa, mind, with the mind, aprapya, it cannot be gained. Yato vacho nivartante, it is that principle where the words also without illuminating return back. If I say sofa, immediately a picture of sofa of some form comes into our mind. Because every form must have a name and every name must have a form. If I say a chair, some sort of chair pops up in the mind. If I take some name, someone corresponding to that name will pop up in the mind. But when we say the word self, what pops up in the mind? When we say the word infinity, when we say the word eternal, what pops up in the mind? Eternal cannot become a concept of the mind, because mind cannot think of anything which is birthless and deathless. Mind can know only some name and form, whether gross or subtle. Mind functions only in duality, whereas that we really are cannot be illumined by the mind, which functions only in the relativity. And thus it is said, this self is eternal in nature, self-knowing in nature, self-illuminating in nature. Just like the sun does not need another light to illuminate itself, similarly, the self also does not need any light to illuminate it. Sun's nature is heat and light. No amount of n number of candles or n number of globes put together can illuminate the sun. So also, n number of thoughts, as divine as they may be, as subtle as they may be, as profound as they may be, cannot illuminate the self. From the sun's point of view, the duality of day and night, heat and cold, is absent from sun's point of view, from absolute point of view. Similarly, from the self point of view, the duality of the mind, because mind is a product of duality. Heat, cold, like, dislike, hunger, thirst, comfort, discomfort, etc., etc. It goes on. Black and white, up and down, east and west, inside, outside, man, woman, knowing, not knowing, all these are. Mind cannot function singularly. It needs two to survive, opposites to survive, a sense of otherness to survive, a sense of difference to survive. The moment you give only one theme to the mind will exhaust itself, it will dissolve. Just like it dissolves when it given a single theme, sleep. But there you enter ignorance. When it is done consciously, the mind dissolves and the self, which was already there, gets revealed. So just like all the opposites, heat, cold, day and night, are absent from the sun's point of view, but cannot exist without the sun, but are not in the reality of the sun. Exactly the same way, the opposites in the mind are there. The mind is because of the self. Without the self, it cannot, this phenomena called the mind cannot express itself. But the self is independent, as if supporting the mind, but transcendental to the mind. So this statement must click right here and now, because thoughts are coming and going in your mind in someone's presence. Someone knows that these thoughts are coming and going, of the self, of the eternity, of the self effulgence, self illumination. Every thought is coming and going. Maintain such a poise that you don't get identified with any thought that comes and goes in the mind. You are that independent principle. You are that presence. You are that self knowing, self illuminating, in whose presence the thoughts are coming and going, the breath is coming and going. Be that. Don't think that. Be that. And if inadvertently thinking happens, is going on, in spite of thinking, be that, in whose presence thinking is going on.